Sarnia activists deserve much of the credit for the federal government's long-awaited move to ban asbestos and asbestos-containing products in Canada, says a veteran workplace health researcher. This is something so long overdue, it's not funny, researcher Jim Brophy said about proposed regulations. Science Minister Kirsty Duncan and other federal cabinet ministers announced recently to meet the government's promise to enact a ban by 2018. It's a very important public health measure, said Brophy, who worked at the Occupational Health Clinic for Ontario workers during 17 years he spent in Sarnia. The evidence was long known about the danger that asbestos posed for workers. Among the diseases known to be caused by exposure to asbestos fibers is mesothelioma, a rare form of cancer. In Sarnia-Lambton, where asbestos was used widely in industry, the incidence of mesothelioma in men was approximately 5 times the Ontario average from 2000 to 2009, according to the Ontario Cancer Registry. Among women in the community, mesothelioma occurred approximately 3 times the Ontario average. While asbestos is already banned in many other countries, Canada only pledged to take similar action following years of lobbying. Besides the workers themselves that contacted these diseases, the real heroes of this public health story are the women of Sarnia, Brophy said. They were the ones who never relinquished their demand for asbestos to be banned, for compensation to be given and for the workplace to be cleaned up. They include victims of Chemical Valley, a group of widows and other relatives of victims who have pushed for services and a ban. They were the ones who lit this issue up, and they kept it going, Brophy said. While the mining of asbestos in Canada ended in 2011 and many of its uses have been phased out, the material is still used in a list of products that includes brake pads and clutches. In December, the federal government said a new regulation will be created to ban the manufacturing, use, importing and exporting of asbestos and asbestos-containing products, as well as establishing new federal workplace health and safety rules to limit the risk of worker coming into contact with asbestos on the job. An application using asbestos in the manufacturing of chlorine and caustic soda will be exempt from the ban until 2025 to give the industry time to phase out the existing systems. The government is asking the public and industry for feedback during a comment period, which ends March 22. I think the community of Sarnia has played a very significant role in this development, Brophy said about the federal government's recent actions. Efforts to call attention to the toll asbestos was taking on the community led to national media coverage of impact of asbestos-released disease. I think 50 years from now, public health and other historians will be looking at what happened in Sarnia, Brophy said. Before that, asbestos disease was thought to be something that mostly impacted minors, but the experience in Sarnia showed how widespread the impact was. Media coverage of what was happening in Sarnia included photographs taken by Louis Palu for the Globe and Mail of Blaine Kinnart, a Sarnia industrial worker, before he died of mesothelioma in 2004. Brophy said Kinnart's photo became the poster image for an international trade union campaign to end the use of asbestos. That was the photo that went right around the globe, he said. Sarnia was also the first Canadian city to pass a resolution supporting a ban, said Mayor Mike Bradley. The credit goes fully to the victims of Chemical Valley, he said. They've kept the issue alive, kept on pressing for the ban. He called the federal government's action long overdue, and said the length of time it took to act was tragic. Until just a few years ago, Canada was still exporting asbestos to other countries where the material was still used in the way it was in North America in the 1950s and 1960s, he said. Asbestos disease can begin to appear many years after the initial exposure, and obituaries still appear regularly for Sarnia residents who have died of mesothelioma or other asbestos disease, Bradley said. We've set up other countries now, generationally, for the same type of horror we experienced here, he said. While many buildings in Canada still contain asbestos, it's believed the health risks are low if the products, such as insulation, remain undisturbed. At the time it was put into use, it was seen as this incredible